guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing a review for The Walking Dead, and this is the second episode right after the mid-season premiere, so let's talk about this episode. You guys know, if you haven't checked out my last review, you should, but you guys know I was not a big fan of the last episode. I'm not really a big fan of Carl, so that really annoyed me. So if you weren't a big fan of the last episode, you might really like this episode, because there's more diverse people here. More things are happening, and I think a lot of people got some shared screen time, which was definitely a disappointment from last episode, especially if you're not a Carl fan, like me. Let's talk about this episode. We get to see, first we get to see Daryl and Beth, and I thought that was a really cool intro, because we get to see some some voiceover from Beth. And so they're the unlikely team up, and Beth is the one who has hope, and Daryl not so much, just going through the motions. And then we get to see another unlikely team up with Tyrese and Lizzie and Mally, I think the other girl's name is. And they're teaming up, trying to find the people from the prison, their group, seeing if anyone's alive. And they have Judith with them. So Judith is alive, and they find Carol along the way. So that's going to be very interesting once Tyrese finds out that his girlfriend was killed from Carol. But I have a theory, which I'm going to talk about in the end of this. I still think that someone else killed the girlfriend, and Carol was covering up for another little young lady that was in this episode. And then after that we get to see Maggie, Sasha, and Bob. I don't give a shit about Bob. He's like, whatever. But I do like Sasha and Maggie. You know, love the relationship between Maggie and Glenn. And I love how Maggie and Glenn are just fighting for each other, seeing if they're alive and really trying to find each other. And you see them in very vulnerable places. And then Glenn's still at the prison. I don't know how that happened, but he met up with the sister who was with the governor. I don't know her name right now. And they find some familiar faces from the comic books, which is Abraham, which I heard he was coming. I don't know much about his character. I just know that I've heard the name before talked about. I really need to get into the comic book, shouldn't I? As a comic book reviewer, I really should. I haven't read Walking Dead, but I know Abraham's a big character. So again, I don't know if he's good, bad, but he looked kind of cool. And I was like, okay, that's a pretty good ending, pretty good cliffhanger. And usually with Walking Dead, I feel like there aren't that many big cliffhangers, especially with these slower episodes. But I thought this was a pretty good cliffhanger. So, like I said, very spread out episode, which I think was really good for a slower episode. And I would say this is much quicker than the last episode, though, which I really did not like that last episode. And like I said in my last review, I think these two episodes should have been reversed. I think this episode should have been the mid-season premiere, and the Carl episode be this week. I think that would have been better, in my opinion. Even though I wouldn't want to see the Carl episode this week and be disappointed, I just thought that would have been better if you wanted the Carl episode. But one thing I loved about this episode was the diverse team-ups. A lot of unlikely team-ups here that I thought just worked and were very entertaining. And the stories didn't so much prolong. You really got to shift through other characters. So once you might have gotten a little bored with Carol, we moved on to Maggie. You know, there's 15 minutes, I would say, for each group. And I thought that was good for a slower episode. Again, I mean, there's zombies here, which was good, you know. A couple more zombies than last episode. And there's some suspense. Again, it's not a filler episode, but this is a little bit of a slower episode, but I think this is a way to do a slower episode. Because of course a show like this needs slow episodes. I never complain about that. I just complain how you use your slow episodes. And this is a perfect example of how you use your slow episodes. You're building up who these characters are. You're saying where they are. Again, this could have been a perfect mid-season premiere. I would say characters grow from here. You get to see different aspects of characters that you haven't seen in a while, which I'll get to every aspect of which characters we get to see. And then I just want to talk about the Abraham thing. I thought that was kind of cool. I'm excited to see Abraham's character and see what he's all about and the crew behind him. Obviously he's going to be important, but how will he mix with all these different characters that we know and love from The Walking Dead? So let's talk character by character here, and I'll leave the most interesting ones for last. So Daryl, he was a little quiet here, but I think people are just happy to see Daryl. He was pretty badass here. Again, I'm trying to skip the important people. Tyrese Tyrese was awesome. I thought he was like a really cool fatherly type person here. Again, I love the unlikely team up, so I really liked Tyrese here, and then him still wondering, is his sister alive? Judith is alive, which is great, so I guess Rick and Carl will be happy when they find that out, which I remember in my mid-season finale review, I was like, oh, Judith is dead, it's so obvious. So obviously I was wrong on that one. She is alive, and yeah, it could have been really 50-50 if she was going to be alive, and she was, so I'm glad to see Judith alive, but I still don't know how Baby's going to survive here. I don't know, and that could have been the perfect way for her to die, unless they do some time jumping, which I'm not a big fan of, but might be needed with a baby in a show, especially since she's outliving her comic book character. So very interested to see what they do with Judith. Again, love the Maggie and Glenn storylines, kind of where's my wife and where's my husband, which I love that Glenn called Maggie his wife. Love that relationship, so really looking forward to seeing them finally be with each other and hopefully have a rightful wedding in this crazy world. Beth, I actually really like Beth in this episode, even though I feel she could have been a little stronger. She's still like, oh no, zombie. I think she's at least interesting, maybe less forgettable. I actually thought she was a good addition. Again, a great team up with Daryl. So let's talk about a really important character that I do want to discuss, and that's Lizzie. Before even Carol and all that, Carol, I'm just happy to see her back. I thought that was a really cool random thing. I'm like, oh cool, Carol, and we'll see the interaction between her and Tyrese. But let's talk about Lizzie. I really think she's a serial killer, and that is not, I'm not even joking, really think she's a serial killer. There's a lot of signs in this episode, and I feel like in previous episodes there's been signs also. First of all, I think she's the one who killed the other people. I don't think Carol killed Tyrese's girlfriend. I think she covered up for Lizzie because she sees Lizzie as Sophia, and I think she covered up for Lizzie, and that's why she was so okay of leaving. So I think that Lizzie killed these people, and if she's a serial killer, that makes sense. And then the way she looks at the rabbit in this episode, it's not killing for food, it's killing for enjoyment. And the way she looks at the walkers, killing for enjoyment. And the way she is covering Lizzie's face, killing for enjoyment. So I really like the arc that they're going with Lizzie, because I think that could be really interesting to see a serial killer child in the zombie apocalypse. Like, how does that work if that's the direction you're going? And the one reason I actually like Lizzie better in this episode than Carl, because I saw a lot of people on Twitter making comparisons saying that Lizzie's more annoying than Carl or Carl's more annoying than Lizzie. I actually thought she has a lot more dimensions than Carl, because she is an annoying character, yes, but again, if she's a serial killer, that's pretty interesting for The Walking Dead. A child serial killer, I guess, you know, that's a little weird, but I see it. There's a lot of signs in this episode that could be true. The way, because I was watching this with my eye, and she's like, no, she's just covering the baby's face, because the zombies are coming. The zombies are coming, and her sister's like, zombies are coming. She was still covering that face, and the way her face looked, it seemed like she wanted to kill Judith. So I think that'll be a very interesting arc for this character if they go that direction, and that's what it seemed like. It really seemed that it was going that direction. But again, I thought there was a lot more story here, a lot more character development for these characters, and I thought the 15-minute each group thing worked really well for this episode. Looking forward to see what Abraham brings to the show. Tell me in comments below. I thought this was a well improvement. I'm going to give it 4 stars. A really solid, again, one of the slower episodes, but very solid. This is how you do a character building episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Unknown. Guys, don't forget to follow me on Twitter for Comic Unknown and the Rent Situations, and don't forget to like my Facebook page, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.